Okay, Andrea, your turn to ask a question.
Okay.
No, here's all I'm trying to say. We're in Dubai, so we're not going to say, anything in particular about this country. The only thing that bothers me is when people from first world or developed countries shit on, developing countries for doing things that those developed countries also did in the first place. It's just, a little bit of ignorance. That's all. Not to say that we support. Again, we will have some conversation when we're back in the U.S.
about the mass incarceration system in the United States, but I won't. But it's very funny that you guys. Okay.
I'm not going. I just I'm very good at holding back. Okay. Last time we streamed, I made a dumb, offhand comment that couldn't be further from what I actually think. It was a moment of poor articulation of a half-baked, unrelated thought, and out of context, I see how that could be interpreted to mean a variety of different things, and I'm really sorry for that. I'm not going. I just I'm very good at holding.
Morning, Mike.
Oh, hello. What are you glued to, Cameron?
Just your screen, unfortunately.
Unfortunately? What do you do for a living, Cameron?
I'm a carpenter.
A carpenter, right. So how safe is that for the climate?
Well, I work with timber, which is a much more sustainable material rather than concrete. I also
But you work with trees that have been cut down then, don't you?
It's a sustainable building practice.
How is it sustainable if you're killing trees?
Because it's regenerative, you can grow trees.
Right. Well, you can grow all sorts of things, can't you?
Well, you can't grow concrete.
You can. See you, Cameron. Cheerio. That was Cameron. He grows trees and then cuts them down and then makes things from them. Brilliant. Marvellous.
Scorpion wins flawless victory.
Well done, son.
Listen, I only wish I had your agent who would have negotiated
I'll negotiate
a pound
for you later.
per view for me.
A pound for you.
That's
Mike's
what I
made
want.
3 million
That's
on
what
a
I want.
Tuesday.
That's what I want, right? But so they're all going, he's so stupid, he doesn't know that concrete doesn't grow. I mean, do they really think that? They actually think
It expands.
Well, if you have ever seen somebody making concrete in a concrete mixer,
Yeah.
I don't know whether you've ever watched anyone doing that.
Yeah,
but
it's
you basically
exciting,
put, sand in, you put water in,
Yeah.
cement goes in,
Yeah.
you make concrete, it expands, it grows.
Yeah.
So you can actually make
What
it grow.
on a personal.
But I think what you're seeing is this kind of hybrid socialism that really is about nothing more than trying to sandpaper the edges off of neoliberalism. And I, would describe a lot of people on the right as being socialists. I would consider Steve Bannon to be a socialist. I would consider the 2016 iteration of Donald Trump, the candidate, to be a socialist based on what he was saying. I consider Tucker Carlson to be a socialist. Now if you have Governor Cuomo, who wants to give, tens of millions of dollars to Amazon to bring an office to New York, you have AOC, an actual self-identified socialist, standing up and saying, this is outrageous. And then you have Tucker Carlson going on his Fox News program and saying, I agree with her completely, because I think people are realizing that neoliberalism doesn't work. And I think the real right-left difference, to the extent that those terms even have any currency or coherence, I think you see in France too, like Marine Le Pen, the fascist far-right candidate, when she ran both times, she ran to the left of Macron for sure, but even the French socialists, in terms of wanting to give workers better benefits and better pensions. So I think the vision is, you have this kind of right-wing populism, which really is socialism, that says we should close our borders, not allow unconstrained immigration, and then take better care of our own working class people, and not allow this kind of transnational global corporatist elite to take everything for themselves under the guise of neoliberalism. We should distribute that more to workers.
The fact the media is even bringing up Crumbly's mother's political affiliation shows us where they're headed with this. Rather than focus on how this 15-year-old was able to gain access to a weapon and focus on making changes to our gun laws, such as requiring ammunition to be locked away separately from firearms or laws that hold the registered gun owner responsible, we're going to use this event to demonize Trump voters, amplify this idea that white domestic terrorism is the country's greatest threat, and somehow devolve this into a race war by saying if he were any other color than white, he'd be dead, which is not true. The man who drove his car into a Christmas parade and killed numerous people is not white and not dead. And further evidence of this, look at the photos of Ethan Crumbley people on social media and some media outlets are using. He's now 15, and yet they chose this angelic-looking photo from about when he was 10. What is the purpose of this when there are several other photos like his mugshot that could have been shown instead? This same sort of tactic is used in reverse against Black perpetrators and even victims. Rather than use their school photo of them smiling and looking like good kids, they use the meanest looking, most aggressive photo they can find on social media to portray them as villains. They attempt to portray them as people who either obviously would commit the heinous crime they did or victims who deserved it. They do this to placate a certain bias and mindset that the audience already holds, and the same looks to be happening in this case. Showing Crumbley as this innocent-looking angelic white kid is intended to stoke fear and support a narrative that white people, no matter how nice they look, are domestic terrorists who we should all be afraid of. They are catering this message to a group of people in this country who already possess this belief. It's divisive and it's inaccurate in both scenarios. Rather than try to correct the wrongs and harms that have happened against one group, many in the nation seem more inclined toward evening the score and enacting revenge instead. This isn't healthy and this isn't helpful. The fact is, Ethan Crumbley took innocent lives and maimed others, and his motive is still unknown. And even if it comes out that he has a political affiliation or another, the only thing that matters is why he committed this crime in particular. The last thing we should do is paint an entire cohort of people as evil or people we should fear because they happen to share the same characteristic or belief.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Well, it all started with knitting. I knit to relax, to escape the drama of real life. But like almost everything nowadays, even knitting has become political, to the point that only those with politically correct views are welcome in the online knitting forums. You think I'm kidding. I wish I were. But I'm not. The online knitting mob is real. And like all mobs, it's mean. That always made me uncomfortable. The insults and the name-calling. But I despised those knuckle-dragging Republicans as much as the next knitter. So despite my discomfort, I never gave it much thought. Truth is, I'm more interested in mastering a 3-needle bind-off than discussing immigration policy. But the knitting mob wouldn't drop it. It became a fixation, a daily litany of how horrible the president and his followers were.
And this was, okay, so for context here, this was in a series of tweets. There was a whole long series of tweets talking about different elements of my belief system. Now, to give a general overview of my belief system, I believe that we are all spiritual beings that come from God. We are all a little piece of God that breaks off and decides to have a human experience so that God, the collective, can learn about different types of experiences. I believe that when we are spiritual beings, before we ever are born, before we ever come to Earth, we make decisions about what we want our experience on Earth to be like. Some people are going to say, I'm going to be a king or a queen, and I'm going to have everything available to me. I'm going to be the richest person in the world. I'm going to have everything I want. That's going to be their experience in that lifetime. Some people are going to say, I want to be a slave and the most oppressed, that anyone can be oppressed in this lifetime. Now, why would someone choose on a spiritual level? Why would someone choose to have a bad human experience? Why would someone choose to be a slave? Why would someone choose to be oppressed? Why would someone choose to be murdered? We're going to talk about that today. Why would someone choose that? Because we choose it when we're spiritual beings, not when we're humans. We have a completely different set of priorities when we're spiritual beings than we do when we're humans. Because when we're spiritual beings, We know that we never die. Right? When we're spiritual beings floating around up in the ether, just having a grand old time, seeing the big picture, we can see everything that's happened in the past. We can see everything that's happened in the future. We know we never die. We know that even if we suffer the worst possible death on earth, that when we die, we go back to God. And we can choose to be born again, or we can choose not to be born again. So the reason that someone might choose to have the most horrible, oppressive, bad experience on a human level is because it gives the collective experience, it gives the collective knowledge about what it's like to be oppressed, what it's like to be murdered, what it's like to be like legitimately in really bad situations. Because if the collective understands that, the collective is going to have a whole new appreciation for the good things, right? Yeah. So I'm just going to give people a chance to kind of make their way into the stream, and then we're going to talk about why I just got canceled by the woke conservative mob, not the woke left. Fun fact, I have actually been canceled significantly more by the woke right than I have been by the woke left. People don't believe this.